using that material. We are moving it um, and using it in areas where we need fill around the properties. So we are using up that material. It's just a work in progress. It takes time, but
Alex,
we are way
are
at
you
it.
able to knock down the height of that mound in this process or what?
Yeah, yeah, and I have bulldozers and everything, so we can flatten them out, get them the height of them down, so they're not mountains, you know.
Yeah,
And
anything is helpful.
yeah, and we are stabilizing everything that we are not touching, so that they will be green. So they're not going to be, you know, eyesores. They'll look like, you know, they'll be grass.
Okay.
Jim, I just had a question, if I might. Is it?
Sure. Yeah.
Can you give me an update on the basin, how that's performing?
Sure. So we have been monitoring that, you know, throughout the winter and into the spring. It has been improving, I will say. A lot of it, maybe it has a lot to do with stabilization. I know Scott Jordan, who we've been hoping to get come to a meeting recently, has joined us this evening, so he might be able to provide some additional input there. But you know, as it's been stabilizing, we have seen that less volume, I guess, rushing into the lake, and that volume being rather clean. So you know, I think it's just a continue to monitor it as construction continues.
Actually, Jim, can you speak to the DPW's comments on that about the basin not being typical? On the letter from the DPW.
Regarding the letter, oh, so oh, yep, Bob. No.
No, it was on the letter about the security bond.
Bob, you have to unmute yourself if you. There you go.
I didn't think I was muted.
You're good now. You're good now. You're good now.
You're good. You're
Okay.
good.
Okay, so I talked to Don DiMartino just yesterday regarding his letter, because we were going over the bond. He's not talking about the basin at the intersection of Silver Lake Road and Candlelight. He's talking about interior basin on the other at the other end of Candlelight.
Okay.
Because that's more of his concern for this phase one, is rather than the one at the intersection. So he wasn't talking about basin C. He was talking about the interior basin.
Okay, thank you.
With the cattails in it, and you know, so that's and what he's suggesting needs to be done is something that we would do anyways prior to turning everything over to the town. So that's part of the final cleanup of you know, getting rid of any brush that's grown up in the basin because it's been there for a while, any cattails, removing any sediment, and getting all the vegetation reestablished on the side slopes before it's turned over to the town. So.
Thank you, Bob.
Yep.
Okay. Can you comment on the dust controls that are in place for phase two? And Jim, do you feel like they're adequate, what you're seeing at this point?
Sure, I think Alex might be able to touch on it. I think we do need to improve upon the dust control. I do appreciate the fencing that was put up, but you know, it's with a simple wind, we've been seeing this dust pick up pretty easily now that it's getting a little drier out. You know, we talked about this in phase one. I know it's mostly a new team though, but you know, we need a watering tank or something on site to water down any of the loose material there, because we're watching a lot of this dust pick up. Any simple pickup truck driving through that construction site is picking up dust and shooting it off onto the public way. You know, and continuing to sweep the roads obviously is something that's necessary as well. I did see that they are stabilizing some of the piles there though, which is definitely going to improve the circumstances. But if there can be a watering truck or a tank on site to water down the surfaces, I think that would be a huge improvement. And I was interested to know in timing wise for the base coat for the road, which would also improve the situation.
So yeah, you can definitely get a water truck on site to help out with that. Well, I'll make sure we get that ASAP. Because yeah, I understand that concern. And as far as the base coat, we're trying to. What we're waiting on right now is the design from the electric company, getting that finalized. So I maybe Bob would know better, but I can't give you a good timeline on that. I know we're pushing as hard as we can to get that in, lay the conduit in, but that means road crossing. So we wouldn't really, I don't think, pave until we have that. But I know we're trying to pave as soon as we can. But I honestly, I don't know, Bob, do you have a better idea of that? As I honestly, I can't give him a date.
All I know is if you're counting on if you're waiting on the electric company, you're at their whim, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And we're waiting on the gas company too, so.
Well, yeah, the gas company, they always want to be last. So we really need the electric company to give us a plan.
I would just simply recommend a large watering truck then, because it sounds like you'll be watering down for all season long. That's all.
Well, hopefully not, but we'll get there. And
I think we had a schedule, didn't we have a schedule for the watering truck, or how often they were going to water or something?
For
What?
sweeping, yeah.
For sweeping? How about the watering? How often is that gonna get done?
Well, our basically, if there's dust, we need a water. And you can't be sweeping in dry conditions without water. So we will have a water truck there this summer, and we will have it if we're working there, and we will do everything we can to make sure there's no dust. I've had jobs where we've watered 3 or 4 times a day just to keep everything down. And if we have a water truck there, which we will make sure the dust will not be a problem. And if someone calls, all you guys need to do is call me, and you say, hey, it's too much dust. I'll throw a guy on the water truck. We'll water it down. I've done it before. On my last project, we were doing 20,000 gallons a day, just on a small horseshoe. So I mean, it's nothing new to us. Well, I'll stay on it. If James calls me and says, "Hey, people are saying there's dust getting all over their houses," I'll take care of it. Whatever we do, just to keep everyone happy, make it work. That's fine.
Hi, this is Jim Bundy speaking again. I appreciate that, Alex. Could you also commit to being more proactive and not hopefully that Jim has to call about it or a neighbor has to call about it? My understanding is since the last meeting, I think I had a report that the fence blew over and it stayed blown over until Jim actually had to call you guys.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'll try. I'll do everything I can to say more on it. And yeah, I actually I got quarantined during this spring time, so I was actually pulled off the job for some of this period. So everyone was scrambling to try to keep everything in order, and part of those situations were during that time. And I tried my best to just stay on top of everything, but as long, I just want to say, hey, if anyone calls, even if it's I'll jump on it. That's all I'm saying, and I'll do my best to just maintain it all.
Okay. Does anyone want to discuss further status update? And if not, Jim, are we expecting to review line by line the security bond provisions this evening?
I don't, it's up to the board, but I don't think reviewing the security line by line is necessary. I mean, this is standard practice for DPW to, our inspector goes out, reviews the site, compares it to the final plan, and all outstanding infrastructure is listed there. And those are Mass DOT numbers too, so it's not what the developer would do to, or how much it would cost the developer to construct. It's if we or someone had, or a town had to take it over. So these are larger numbers than a typical construction site.
Okay. So am I hearing then the board should accept the line items, if not necessarily the cost of each line item, which will be a standard value for that line item for a project of a given size, I presume, but the actual line items for the omissions, or we feel Don has them covered?
In my opinion, I feel DPW has them covered. They've reviewed it with myself and Tim Icardi and Tim Inacio, who's the DPW inspector. I believe G&H has also had a chance to weigh in. So I think both parties are in agreement that it's sufficient.
Mm-hmm. Do we have when that fourth occupancy permit will actually hit? I mean, we're at 35 now, and so it's 39 that triggers the bond to be in place, right? My understanding. Doesn't seem like during the summer construction season it would take very long to wrap up 4 homes.
Right. Yeah, I think there's certainly some urgency to get this wrapped up. It does look like I received the bond today. It looks like I've been in meetings. I haven't had an opportunity to open.
Yeah, the bond. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Jim.
Go
The bond is already in place for the full 630,000. I'll send Jim the original bond certificate tomorrow, but I did send a copy today, so it's already in place.
Okay, thank you, Angela. Okay, can you open it up to other board members? And Jim, if you think there's something that we want to cover, please chime in, so we'll open it up to the other board members.
I have one question. Do we have any issues with water on Silver Lake Road at all anymore?
I haven't seen any recently. Now that the drainage is in place, the full drainage is in place, and the shoulders are stabilized, I haven't received any concerns about it. You know, maybe some folks from the public there's a couple folks from the public, maybe they have some comments on that though.
Or should I didn't know, does Jim have to open it up?
Yeah, well, if there's no other comments from the board, I'll open it up to the public then. And whom in the public, Jim, I guess you'll open or unmute them as they choose to speak.
Yep, and I believe maybe Brian Wright had a comment.
Yep. Yeah, Brian Wright, 99 Silver Lake Road. I will second Jim's comments that the drainage definitely seems a bit better for sure at the outlet. I think I noticed before once, I guess I would just wonder what the expectation should be, because it looks like the water's clear. I guess the puddling is part of the new design. Is that correct?
If I can, the puddling is not part of the new design. We did an as-built of it, and we determined by shooting the grades at the bottom that there is some depressions in there, and we have created a revised plan, a modification plan to get in there and regrade the bottom so that the puddling shouldn't be there. And we're going to correct that with some corrective measures to make sure that puddling doesn't continue to be a problem.
You have a timing on that, Bob? You have a time when this is going to be done?
As soon as we can do it anytime. We just kind of last week we just finalized the plan with the procedures. We presented it to FAFID this past Tuesday, and we're going to go on. It should be probably next week. They should probably get started on it.
Yeah, and
We were waiting. It's been raining. We're surprised that we had 4 days of sunshine in a row. So, we're hoping that, we got to get it. We want a few days of when the weather shows it, we're not going to get any rain, because obviously we're going to be disturbing the bottom of that swale, and we don't want to run into the effect of any sediment if we get a rainstorm during that time. So timing is everything with this, but we are moving forward with it.
Yeah, I will say to Bob that it definitely does seem much improved, and that I have noticed that it does fill up I have seen some puddling, but definitely not the gushing coming out that was previously there.
Yeah, no. Well, the basin is functioning better. There's a lot, because the upper slopes are more stabilized. There's a lot more absorption that's taking place in the lawn areas, so there isn't as much flow getting actually into the basin. So the basin is functioning better. The outlets of the basin is functioning better. The forebay is working properly. So it's starting to, with the establishment of the vegetation, everything's starting to function as it was designed.
Yeah, that's great. I only have Jim 2 more comments. The first was that, and I think my wife emailed it to Jim Kupfer, but about getting a fence around the retention pond, because we did see one of the days that a bunch of kids were kind of playing in it. And,
Okay.
yeah, go ahead.
Like I say, part of the improvements or the modifications to the swale also includes removing, because if you look at the pond itself still has puddling in the bottom of it as well, which shouldn't be occurring. Yeah. And if you really get up close, you can see that there's a good thick layer of leaf litter in the bottom of that basin in those areas. And one of the things that we're proposing to do is to get that everything ready for the DPW approval, is to get a vac truck in there and suck out all the muck and whatever is in the bottom. And because it's supposed to be an infiltration basin, you need to scarify the bottom so that the gravel is exposed, so everything can go down. So once that's done, then there's nothing preventing the fence from going up. But right now, we want to make sure that we can get in there the best way possible to affect these little slight corrections we want to make in the bottom of that basin. And then once that's done, the fence will go up. And I expect that both of these, both the basin changes and the swale will occur at the same time. So I would say maybe sometime by the end of next week, we'll be ready to look at putting the fence up around it.
Okay. And my only other comment, Jim, was, and I think it's a DPW comment, but I know like a month ago they came out and they had the piles of sand on the sides of the road at the end of Silver Lake Road that they never spread. And I was just wondering when that was going to resume again. I don't know if you have any sense.
I don't know. I could check in on that.
Okay. Yeah, just curious, but that's it.
I believe Mark McNamara, do you have any comments?
I do. I have a couple. So I suppose we take it one at a time. Alex kind of addressed it briefly. I understand that we can call Jim, but as an abutter, becomes a pest that I have to keep calling. I'd like Alex, if you could be a little bit more proactive. I live on Bryan Road, so I'm at that section of the FAFTA development. I don't know if you call that phase 2.
Okay.
You mentioned the dust. The dust is crazy. So you mentioned spraying the hills. What about the field itself? Is that going to be sprayed with any type of grass seed in the near future?
Yeah. So basically, any area that's been disturbed where there's no vegetation, if it's like we spray. If we're not going to be working on it, our goal is to stabilize it so that because it benefits us too if we have like some vegetation, because as you said, it cuts down on the dust.
When would you expect that? I know you said last week, so I met Jim here last week. They did one hill and a half a hill. When do you expect them to be back out again?
We should have them back out next week. Also, finishing up spraying the rest of the piles, and we just had a blast the other day in that middle section of we call it Celestial, but it's like it's right next to where you live. So that's done now, so that we'll be able to start spreading some tailings and loom on that, and we'll spray that next week, stabilize it, so that we can actually start getting to work on the roads, like the road and the electrical. And we actually bought our own hydro seeder for that very purpose, because we were having so many issues with, we constantly need to stabilize all these piles we're working on. We actually bought our own hydro seeder. So now that
So they didn't spread the hay, they just did a hydro seed. Is that typical?
well, it has like the I think it's like a BMF, like a bark mulch fiber, like it's like a paper thing that with a combination of the seed, it actually creates like a it helps stabilize the soil, and so when rain hits it, it doesn't just wash the seed away. It actually holds it, and then you get the sprouts. So it kind of acts like what we used to use hay for. So that's what we've been using lately, and we still have guys who can spray the hay. So my goal is stabilize as much of the disturbed soil as possible, which it's the law now. You have to do that. You're not supposed to have, I think, more than 5 acres exposed if you don't work it. And so we're on that. And then get a water truck on site to keep the road that we're working, all the dust that would blow on the gravel, keep that down. And
as you can see, the dust portion, whether you're working there or not, the wind blows, it gets dusty. You mentioned the street quickly. Now, I know you guys have a street sweeper. I saw it down in Candlelight.
Yeah.
It was up on Bryan Road once. Can I get a commitment from you and Fafford that the road, right now, it's still dusty? Can we get a commitment a couple times a week or 3, whatever, that road gets swept? The road itself, from my road down South Center to where it meets Easy Street, and obviously that's being dug up with the amount of vehicles that are coming down. So that being swept is my first concern. And then with the number of vehicles, maybe you can address, I see that the Devaney power and the energy trucks coming on, a bunch of those trucks going down at a pretty good rate of speed for an area. So maybe you can talk to those guys, the plant, the ones that come in and fix your equipment, that gets taken care of as far as the speed goes. You had somebody here last night working on one of your vehicles at 8:30 at night, doing soldering, and that machine was running from 4 o'clock to 8:30 at night. I ended up calling the police department, trying to get some people to sleep around here, and to have that going on at 8:30. So I'd like to see, my first commitment is that street, and that gets swept, the roads get cleaned, that nobody's working here. I thought it was 6 o'clock. Maybe I misunderstood it. And my last thing is, you have a drilling machine that's been sitting here idle for a couple months. I assume it's broken. Is that going to remain on site, or can that be removed?
I can get I'll get the drilling machine out of there. As far as the sweeping, I can. I need a street sweeper on site all the time. So if it's on site in Candlelight, what's the difference for it to come up to Brian and your road? I'll make sure that too.
If we could though, that sweeper, we got to make sure there's water associated with it.
With the dust. Yep. And part of that, it will be part of the dust control. Like either the water truck pass before it, and then the sweeper goes through, or I'll get a sweeper with like
Okay.
a water, like a attachment, where they spray.
Sure.
I
Okay.
can do that because we know we need that on site. It's part of just the job. So I can make sure that's part of the routine. We hit your street, we hit Candlelight. That's not an issue, and I will talk to that was our mechanic LaPlante about working after hours. I know we have like a certain range. I don't know off the top of my head. It differs town to town, but I'll make sure we work within our hours. And
Okay, thank you. Jim, so the town, I guess, so that's Jim. Is there a time? I understood it was 6, but I don't know that for sure.
Yeah, for this permit, it's 6 o'clock. There's, we do have town standards, but for this permit, it's expressly stated as 6.
I'll make sure they.
It's all, there is also, I don't know where this work was being performed, but there is language in the permit about the applicant being allowed to work until 10 p.m. on the interior as long as it's not creating excessive noise. But you're saying that this was a very loud.
He had his pickup truck. He drives an F-250 350 diesel power wagon. That was parked probably 15 feet from the entrance. I don't know if you've seen those generators that they do they do the work with that, but it's a constant noise. And then when he actually powers it up, the noise gets louder.
Yeah.
And my bedroom is on that side of the house. So he was going, God bless the guy, he's working his ass off, but he was also working till 8:30 at night. So.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Is there
I think that's everyone.
Okay. So we've covered the status update. We've covered that going line by line item to the items on the security bond would not be necessary. We understand the urgency on the security bond. Angela has said that it's actually been executed in Jim's hands for review. I don't think there's more to discuss other than the board to discuss how we want to proceed with the extension. The applicant is looking, of course, for the year in total to continue. I think the board has been, somewhat reticent or loath to grant the full year at a time and incrementally provide the continuation to the permit, the extensions. I feel comfortable to continue to do the same. My question to the board members would be, given that we're entering now, certainly the height of the activity and construction season, I think we probably do not want to wait as long as 3 months at a time to get status updates and get feedback for the mitigations that are taking place. And I wouldn't feel comfortable extending it any more than 2 months to get periodic status updates, because if something is going awry, we want to have time to respond to it and don't want it to be August before we're having it in front of us to discuss.
I would agree.
So do we want to, although it may seem overkill, do we want to, during the heavy activity period, call for 1 month status reviews, or do we want to go with 2 months?
I would think let's give them 60 days, July 2nd meeting. That's just my opinion.
Okay. All right, how do you feel, or Brian Salisbury?
I'm fine with that date as well. Do we need a motion for that?
Yes, you would need a motion.
Okay. Sure. And I'll make a motion that we have a continuation on the comprehensive permit for the July, until the July zoning board of appeals. I don't have the date in front of me of that July meeting.
July 2nd, yep.
July 2nd. And do I have a second to that?
I'll second that.
Okay.
This is for the extension, correct?
Yes, it's for the extension.
Very good.
Extension and the continuation. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? There being none, all in favor, that's it.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Relinquish back to Brian Wright.
All right, great. Yeah, thanks, Jim.
You bet.
So I guess I'll move on to the next item on the agenda. New public hearing, special permit for an animal kennel, 12 Cranberry Meadow Road. And sitting in is David Gregg. And motion to open the hearing.
Motion, open hearing.
Second?
Second.
Do we have to vote on it? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and I'll quickly just read the hearing notice. The Bellingham Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on May 7th, 2020 at 7 p.m. remotely via the Zoom online option for the request of a special permit in accordance with the Town of Bellingham zoning bylaws, section 240-31, to allow for an animal kennel at 12 Cranberry Meadow Road, Bellingham, Mass. Assessors map 74, lot 2. This property is zoned suburban. The applicant is David Gregg, 12 Cranberry Meadow, or Cranberry Meadow Road, Bellingham, Mass. 02019. Owner is DGH Family Trust, David Gregg, executor. The application may be viewed online at the town's website on the zoning board page. Anyone wishing to be heard shall attend at the time and place above. Thank you.
Okay, and so David Gregg, can you kind of just walk us through what your, I know
You're unmuted. Good.
Oh, I'm unmuted. Awesome. Thank you very much. I was just about to. Anyways, yes, my name is David Gregg, and I am the son of Carrie Barrett, who lived here since 1986 and ran her Puddle Bank Farms here as a kennel. And just want to continue on the legacy my mom had established here so long ago, and continue as the kennel that she established and had wonderful success with. So we just want to continue on. This is my wife, Sherry, by the way.
hi, how are you?
And just
Yeah,
quickly for the board, we have Bruce Wilson from Board of Health, and I see Tracy, who I'm going to unmute now, from Animal Control, who can assist you guys on any questions you may have.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jim. So yeah, I see in the application, it looks like your mother initiated it in '86.
Yes.
So I guess the questions I have are, for the kennel, is it for overnight boarding? What is kind of the nature of the kennel, the new kennel?
It would be for overnight boarding for people who are traveling. You need to put their dogs or kitties or even sometimes rabbits someplace. And yeah, we provide boarding overnight, and we're here full time. So we're able to stay on property and take care of them overnight. And our hours are from 8:30 in the morning till 12:30 in the afternoon. And then we shut down for a little nap time, and then we have them out again from 4:30 to about 7:30. We feed them around 4:30 to 5. And then at around 10 o'clock at night, I go out and I check on everything. I let the dogs out for one last potty break, and we're in for the night, and we're quiet.
Okay. And how many animals do you have, would you say, that you're looking for the kennel?
Well, right now, in the 2 years,
Right now, we have none.
yeah, right now we have none. No one's going anywhere.
Well, that makes sense.
We've been running it for the last 2 years, almost 2.5, since his mom passed away. And we had nowhere near as many as she used to have. We've been averaging anywhere from 2 to 10 on a regular week, and then a holiday weekend, maybe 15.
Yeah.
And then Christmas week, like a vacation, Christmas vacation week, we've had up to 20, 22 tops. Tracy came out and checked everything out, and we agreed on having a 30-dog max.
Yeah, we don't
But
want
we don't regularly
get
have
large.
that.
You know.
We don't regularly have that kind of, that's only like Christmas time.
Yeah.
Regularly, maybe, like I said, 5 to 10 dogs, but on a holiday weekend, it'll be in the teens.
Yeah, because that was really my only main concern, was that looking online, it looks like your lot is like 0.57 acres. So it is a small lot. it looks like at least you don't have too many immediate neighbors.
No.
And obviously you've been running, it's been running as a kennel for a long time. And after the board discusses it, we'll open it to the public to see what comments they have. But do you have a fenced in area as well then for the?
The entire yard is fenced in.
We have 3 fenced in areas that we can separate the dogs, that they can play and run around, so we can have big dogs and little dogs. in
And
different
rotate
areas.
them as need to be.
And yeah, the back is definitely bigger than it looks from the front.
Yeah.
And it's like fences all around.
Do you have any employees, or is it just the 2 of you?
We have 3 part-time employees, an office manager who handles the phones and the emails, and 2 part-time young girls who help with the cleaning and taking care of the dogs.
Yep.
Plus ourselves.
How many parking spaces do you have then out front?
Out front, we actually,
1, 2, 3,
what was it, 1, 2, 3,
4,
3 in the
5.
front yard, and then 2, technically 3 on the side parking area that used to be. But then we made the front yard more of a drive-through type of driveway, so that now it's.
And then the van can, we also, most of our customers don't drive, because one of the things that people like is that we pick up and deliver.
Yeah.
So we don't add a lot of traffic to the street. So we have some locals that will drop their dogs off, but it doesn't really take very long. We very rarely have more than 1 customer here at a time.
Yeah.
So what's the max amount of vehicles you think you have out front then, would you say?
Up front, we usually.
6?
5 or 6, yeah.
Yeah.
And then 1 in back if we need to.
Yeah. Well, that's the van.
The van, yeah.
That's the
pickup and
the
delivery.
pickup and delivery van is.
So I guess you were saying then that 30 dogs, at least that was what you discussed as a maximum.
Mhm.
Did you discuss number of cats, or is it primarily dogs that you?
It's primarily dogs. I
we
mean,
get cats once in a while.
once in a while.
We have a separate cat room,
Yeah.
and they're completely separate from the dog.
Okay,
And
I
then
guess those were my main questions. I'll open up to the rest of the board.
Mhm.
My first question would be, how are these animals housed?
They're housed in kennels that are separated by the lower kennels that are for the larger dogs, 40 pounds larger.
Yeah.
40 pounds and larger have walled off sections, and then a front gate that lets them in and out.
If you'd like, we can take you.
We can
we're
give you a
home, we can
tour.
take you through the kennel.
Yeah, we're not going anywhere.
It's true.
Is this inside the home where you're housing all the animals?
It's attached to the home.
Part of the
We
upper.
go from the home into the office, into the upper kennel.
And
Then we
then
go outside down to the
lower kennel.
where the bigger dogs are.
Yeah. And I have photos, so if you'd like to see those.
Or we can just take you through.
And I guess this is Brian again. Jim, do you know, have you heard much from the neighbors? Have there been many complaints in the past, or even?
Not that I'm aware of, but I typically don't get those first. I'm not the first line of contact. Bruce and Tracy are on the line. They might be able to contribute something there.
Yeah, actually, I guess if I could open up to Bruce to kind of give his evaluation of, so he's visited the property.
Sure, I have never received a complaint about on the property. My big concern is if they're gonna have that many dogs, that there's somebody on site all the time.
Yes, 24.
I mean, other than that, I don't see an issue. I haven't heard any complaints. Again, we'll get Tracy's input on it. She and I briefly spoke about it, but didn't have anything bad to say. So,
do you see any issues with that amount of animals, that many dogs on such a small site? This is for Bob.
We would have more staff too when we have more dogs.
Well, I guess I was wondering what Bob's take on it is. Or Bruce, I'm sorry.
I've seen.
I apologize.
I've seen kennels up to 100 dogs, but obviously on a little bit bigger piece of property. A lot of it's all in the care. I mean, if the dogs are happy, they're not going to be barking. I mean, if they're well taken care of, well fed, well watered, typically they just, do their thing. When they're out playing, obviously, dogs will bark a little bit. Somebody there, an obnoxious dog can be, fairly quickly. My kennel was only 14, and usually when the dogs were barking, it's because a stray rabbit being through the yard or something.
Yep.
Can I interrupt? Tracy from Animal Control.
Sure.
I do all the inspections there. I'm the animal inspector as well as animal control. So I go there every year, at least once. Usually I try to get out there twice. I've never had an issue there. I didn't have an issue with Carrie. David has done everything that I've asked him to do. I've gone there and I've inspected. We agreed on 30. They have the setups. The setups are great. His mother was grandfathered in for a lot more. And I thought it was way too many. That's why I agreed to down it. But I've never had an issue there. The fencing is set up great.
Okay, that's good. That's great to hear. Thanks, Tracy. Thanks, Bruce, too. Any other board members?
I have one more question. Was there a previous permit for this business?
Yeah. Yes, she had a 10 plus, which she had no minimum. She could have as many as she wanted, which I didn't approve of. But she was grandfathered.
Yeah, and no special permit from the zoning board. That it predated the whole animal kennel.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Thanks, Jim.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Sure, yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Looking at the property, on the right-hand side of the property, the two of those green hut-type buildings, the animals aren't housed in there, are they?
Not at all. No. Those are just sheds.
Okay.
In the front of the plant.
Brian, if I could ask a question, could you describe your neighborhood for me in terms of where your neighbors are located and?
Yeah. Well, if I'm facing my property from the street, our neighbor to the left, which is towards the top of Cranberry Meadow, is, I don't know, how many feet would you
I don't
say?
know how many feet, but there's definitely woods.
There's a woods,
on both sides.
Conservation
Stream.
land, a stream right on that side that goes all the way to that property there. And then on the other side of my property, going down towards where it levels out towards the lake, that gentleman is, once again, there's a big chunk of forest or, unused land that is there.
Before we get to his house.
Before we even get to his house. And then across the street is a gentleman, John, who's a really nice neighbor and has been friends with my mom for years. And he's really the closest neighbor to us. And then behind us, it's all conservation land from the looks of it.
The puddle of Puddlebank.
The puddle of Puddlebank,
There's
yeah.
a puddle back there.
Yeah.
A pond.
Yeah, I was going to say, Brian, that just looking at the map, it looks like the neighbor across the street is the closest abutter. And there's fair space around the others.
And in terms of your maximum number of dogs over the past, or at least since the time that your mom has passed away,
yeah,
did you say it was 15 or so?
We had 20, 21, Christmas vacation week, not this year, but the year before.
And then on like when we'd have an April vacation, then we might get up to 15. But
yeah, the school vacations are usually the busiest in summertime. Because it's when the people vacation. And it's usually like our vacations are usually in the teens. But we just agreed with Tracy on the 30 in case we grew a little bigger. And again, we're only that big when it's vacation time.
Exactly.
That's Dottie, our office manager.
Oh, I'm
Who's been
sorry.
here way longer than us.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm
Dottie.
sorry.
Yeah, you're fine. Dottie's been with my mom, with Dave's mom for over 20 years.
Yeah.
Helping us grow into the place. She knows how busy it was compared to how busy it is now.
A lot more.
It certainly seems like we've had many people come before us that are significantly less sophisticated than you are in terms of how you operate things, and And we always worry about the impacts to the neighbors. That's probably our, I would guess, is our overriding concern, is just to make sure that whatever number of dogs are there, that it doesn't impact the neighbors. Jim, what kind of, is there how long does this permit last? Is there a sort of a review process, or how does that work?
Well, it's up to
We've
the
done
board.
that
I
with
mean,
some of
you can certainly cap it. I've heard the number 30 stated a few times on number of animals, and you certainly could request it, be good for say 5 years and renewed or something like that, like we do with a lot of permits.
Okay.
Jim Donnelly, if I may?
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, thanks. For me, I've heard what's important to me so far is that we've had the Board of Health weigh in, as well as the animal control officer, that this has been a very outstanding been run there. Impacts neighbors, which is great. My question is more along the technical legal lines, that if this has been an ongoing enterprise that predated subdivision regulations, why is they need to be in front of just simply a pre-existing non-conforming use? First of all, suburban doesn't allow kennels, so pre-existing non-conforming, and do they need to be in front of it?
Yeah, it was brought to our attention through, Board of Health and Animal Control, that the change of ownership and the need to, put some constraints and controls on the pre-existing non-conforming use in the area. So yeah, I would say it's it's a unique application, considering, as Brian mentioned, we tend to get people that are brand new at this, but this one is has been in existence for some time now.
So basically what triggered it was just a change of ownership. That's why they're in front of us.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of a unique change in ownership, though, where it's done, within family. So it's just, Tracy and I both thought it would be cleaner to establish it in his name, because typically a kennel will go with the owner and not with the land. And where it's coming down through the family, we thought it would be a simple process, or a cleaner application to come before the board and do things proper.
Okay. That's it from my end. If anything comes to light as a result of the public input portion of the discussion, I'll get back on the microphone. But I'm good so far.
Mr. Chairman, thanks, Brian. My only concern would be the number of animals that would be allowed. 30 seems a little excessive to me.
Not at all.
Is that so? Those 30 would be primarily dogs or other kinds of animals?
Dogs, primarily dogs.
Yeah.
Like I said, we do board cats.
We do board cats,
and we have one rabbit that
and we
comes.
one bunny.
One
That comes-
rabbit.
It's like their whole family shows up.
Well, based on our conversation, you said that typically it's done anywhere from 10 to 15, maybe sometimes 20. So, with the figures that you've been telling us, the 30 seems a little bit more than what's necessary for your operation.
It was just for growth.
It's for growth. It's so that we can my mom.
His mom had way more. She could do 40, 50, 60.
Exactly.
But we're not even looking to do that. We are looking to grow a little bit so we can make a little bit of money. We're not even profiting really right now.
Yeah, we're
so we'd
keeping
like
this thing afloat.
to be able to have the ability to get to 30, but we're not really. We have the housing, the proper everything. If you saw the kennels, you'd see that we have the proper caging for that many animals or more.
Yeah.
If we, to house them all fairly and properly, and we would
comfortably,
and we would double staff every time we had more than so many dogs anyway to make sure they were taken care of properly,
and that the cleaning was being done properly.
So any type of large increases in numbers would be very limited in time frame. It would be,
Exactly.
Exactly.
it's not an ongoing,
Mm-mm.
a full
No.
month or anything.
No.
No, it's
February
daily.
vacation, April vacation, a little bit in the summer, and Christmas vacation.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question, Brian? In terms of your ability to control noise, let's say that you have a good week and there's 20 dogs and there is a complaint. What can you do to sort of control 20 dogs to keep them
Well,
quiet
for
if
one
they're
thing,
They're on a schedule here.
yeah.
So
we keep
like
them
they
on a
all
schedule.
know when it's dinner time. They all know it's bedtime, and we only let them out in like they're not out later than 7:30, except for a quick pee at 10 o'clock at night.
And usually that's one or two at a time.
We don't let them all out at
We
the
don't
same
let them all out at the same
time
time.
at 10 o'clock at night.
No.
And they get their cookie at 7:30 at night. They know it's time to rest. And then after they pee again, they get another treat, and they usually lay down and go to sleep.
But is there a way to control, let's say there just happens to be an excited dog that excites all the other dogs. If their housing is outside.
The housing's not outside, they're in buildings.
They're in buildings. It's a very controlled, it's a climate controlled building that we keep them in. So their walls are fully, thick, insulated.
Yeah.
And thick enough for them. So, you get 25 feet away, you'll hear them barking, but you won't.
The neighbors don't usually hear it.
No.
Actually, the peepers
Down in the puddle
are way louder
than we are.
Yeah, and you have monitors too, so you can keep an eye on them.
We do have monitors, keep an eye on them. We do have.
So you know.
So we know when they're upset.
Yeah.
And we've also brought them up into the house when we know they're not
acclimating
well.
Yeah,
and just comfort them
and be with them.
Yeah.
Most of the dogs are regulars and they know the routine.
They know us.
They know us. They know they're safe.
I mean, a lot of our clients are third generation of animals
of the same family
who's coming here. So these are people who've known my mom for a long time and are now very happy that we're continuing the tradition.
Yeah, we understand when a dog is upset. We don't want them to be upset, so we are aware if we're barking too much, then there's something wrong, and we try to comfort them. We'll move their kennel to a different area because maybe they don't like a dog that's across from them.
Or they don't like the size of their kennels.
And we'll try to change kennels, or we'll bring them upstairs and bring them in with us until they're comfortable. We don't want our dogs, the motto was when you're not there to love them, we are, because we're concerned about their well-being and they're being upset.
Yeah, I don't have any kind of concern about their care and that you do a good job and that you're on top of it. And I think I share Artie's concern. When you hear 30 dogs in a residential neighborhood, you automatically think that's probably too much. But seeing that you sort of have the benefit of conservation land, you have a small lot, but it seems like you only have one neighbor that's potentially impacted and they're not here. And neither the Board of the Health or the animal inspectors received any complaints. I think that mitigates the number of, or lessens the concern for the number of dogs. My only remaining concern is that there is some mechanism, Jim, that we can, if problems do occur, if the house across the street who's been friends with a family who's a little bit more accommodating than perhaps someone that doesn't know the family, suddenly, they sell their house and now it's a problem. What can we do to ensure that if a problem does arise, that it can be addressed and it's fair to the neighbors?
Yeah, I mean, Bruce, so I mean, for a typical complaint, it goes to either, it goes to you typically, and then to Tracy perhaps. Maybe it's a trigger of a couple complaints from Board of Health, or maybe on Board of Health's recommendation, they would kick it to ZBA for just a review of the permit, perhaps some mechanism like that.
Where they're only putting, just so I can comment, where they're only putting 2 dogs out at a time, I highly doubt that you're going to have an issue there. I'd be worried if they were putting all 30 dogs out at once, and then something came through, a fox or a skunk or a rabbit that would get them all barking. But obviously, if you dogs are going to start barking at and there's somebody there, they're going to go down and put them in the building, and that usually quiets them down. And in my experience, if the dogs are happy and they have a new chew toy or a treat, they're going to be more infatuated with that than the thing that was disturbing them a few minutes ago.
Exactly. We do more than 2 at a time out in the yards, especially like during Christmas time. We have 3 yards we can use and we rotate them. But generally, there's no more than like 5 in a yard at a time, and we make sure that they get along by personality, breed, sizes, everything. So we're not just throwing big dogs with big dogs, little dogs with little dogs. We're making sure the mix is proper for them, so there are no incidences, no barking, no stress. So generally, we have no problems with barking at all. And if there is someone that's stressed, like Sherry said, we do bring them in. We comfort them. We try to find out what's stressing them, and we fix their accommodations.
Yeah, and that's only during the shift moments, not during the 10 o'clock at night.
Right. Correct. Yeah. Then that's just 1 or 2 at a time.
Right.
Yeah.
And usually the 2 are brother and sister. So it's like.
Yeah. Jim, what was the thing that we did on the last permit? I thought there was some sort of number of something would triggered something.
Yeah. Well, with the last one, there were some concerns about the ability to maintain or properly mitigate any noise. So it was actually just a 3 month. They have a 3 month renewal. Maybe not renewal might not be the right term, but more of a check in with the board to confirm that there's no concerns, complaints, anything like that. If you're concerned about renewal, you certainly could do something like an annual. I mean, we do that with almost all businesses. I'm sure Tracy probably does an annual for.
I was going to say, I bet Tracy will go at least once a year.
Yep.
I do. I go out once a year. And the other one that you're talking about was Potter Circle, and I got many complaints there.
Yeah.
You're also looking at total. This is more of a professional outfit versus a backyard person.
Exactly.
You go over there and you'll see the difference like night and day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other board members that have any other comments?
This is Jim Dunley speaking again.
Yeah,
go ahead. Brian?
Yeah.
Thanks. I'm kind of with Brian and Art on this. Brian Salisbury and Art, at first glance, 30, seems excessive. It would be good if we can work some mechanism in there. It sounds like there's already an annual review. But if somehow that annual review could be, also actionable if it needed to be. It certainly sounds like with this endeavor that it's an ongoing entity that has had no problems, and one certainly would hope that it continues that way, and it most likely will. But of course, if it doesn't continue that way, and you're the neighbor that's across the street, and you've got to wait 5 years and endure it for 5 years, that's an extreme hardship to have to go through.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that too. I mean, I guess that was my thought too, was that the lot's only 0.57 acres and 30 does seem like a lot of dogs.
Mm-hmm. About something along the lines of, again, the annual review that's taking place now with the animal control officer, and should the animal control officer have written record of excessive complaints during the course of the year, that would trigger a special permit review to the zoning board.
Should we give a number of 3 complaints or?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've been trying to think what excessive could be. I know that's the next question.
Yeah.
I guess, 20 complaints per year? I'm just throwing a number out there that might, seem reasonable. I mean, if they're getting 20 or 30 complaints a year, to me, that's kind of establishing a pattern.
That seems reasonable to me.
If I might, though.
That's for us.
We don't get any that complaints.
Yeah, so
that's fine with us.
Okay. Art, was that you?
No, it's me. It's Peter.
Oh, Peter, sorry. Go ahead,
We're
Peter.
also dealing with a pre-existing business, been in business for, I forget the number of years. And they're looking for less capacity. It's just the change of ownership and family. From my point of view, I'm not thinking we're gonna have any trouble there. We've heard from Bruce, it's a good setup. We've heard from Tracy. I personally have no problems, but I go along with board wishes.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like there hasn't been any history of complaints at all. So I would see this as just a good kind of cautious measure to it that should be not an issue, I would assume.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't seem like it's an over-the-top ask or provision to put in there because there hasn't been any complaints in the past. So there isn't really, in my opinion, to have a hardship to have that type of a provision in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, and I can, if you.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Tracy.
Oh, sorry. I can even do more inspections if that's what you guys need me to do. I could go there every 3 months. That would satisfy everybody. I've never had an issue. They don't give me a hard time when I go there. I go in, I look, I see how many dogs they have at a time. They do usually turn over, it's either weekends or, long, sometimes 2 weeks long, depending on how long the person's gone for. But I could do that as well if that's what you guys.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Brian.
I don't have any concerns in that way. I'm sure they'll live by the number for the special permit, and I'm sure they'll take care of the dog. My concern is more of just if a neighbor happens to complain, that the neighbor has some sort of avenue of relief, since it is such a very high number of dogs in a residential area that happens. So whether it be a complaint to Tracy or to Bruce or to Jim or whomever would receive those kind of more or less noise complaints, or there's too many cars in the parking lot or whatever it is, that there's some way to help the neighbor that finds themselves next to 30 dogs. So Jim, I would pick your brain for some sort of suggestion.
What's
This is Jim speaking again. Just to expedite, I was going to suggest that, why don't we say if there's any more than 20 complaints within any 12-month period that triggers a special permit review to the zoning board. In addition to that, there would be the continuing one-year annual inspection from the animal control officer, and that would flex as the animal control officer deems necessary, never to exceed 1 year.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that. My concern is picking a number that's arbitrary. I think that if within the discretion of Tracy, Bruce, or Jim, if he gets the complaints, that if it seems to be a pattern, maybe a pattern of complaints that that triggers something.
Yeah, so I was going to recommend something along the lines of, as the animal control officer reviews the site, so not stipulating annually because she does it annually already, but if Tracy deems that it's necessary to start ramping up some more reviews, because I'm sure she adds reviews additionally if there's concerns. So as she does the review, if concerns arise, the animal control officer shall send the applicant back to the zoning board for a review of special permit terms, and those terms being controlling your noise and maximum animals, fenced in, etc. Something along those lines. That way, it's not a hard and fast number, but it gives discretion to staff if they see constant complaints or concerns, they can bring it back to the boards that provided these permits.
That sounds reasonable, Jim, but would we also want to add the annual review for the for them to come to the board to make sure that everything is fine?
annual status checkup to the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Brian, do you like that?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Is there anyone that are we opening this up to the public yet, or is it?
That's
we all set?
yeah. It's just.
Just
I guess
us.
I'll open it to the public. I'm not sure if there is anyone from the public on it,
I
but I'll
guess
open
not.
it to the public for comment.
If I might,
Mr.
So-
Chairman, sorry,
go ahead, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, my concern with asking them to come back every year is, again, I'm going back to a pre-existing business. That are they going to be required to incur the expense of notifying the neighbors and stuff and paying for a hearing to come back every year for a good established business in this town? That's my concern. Are we putting to undo, if I'm coming across right?
I guess to me, I don't see that as necessary to come every year. I kind of agree with Jim Cupford that I feel comfortable leaving it up to the animal control officer, that they could give a recommendation to the board to bring them before the board.
Like that.
I agree with that also.
I like that idea.
Jim, would the noise complaints go to the animal enforcement officer, or where do they go?
Well, it depends. It typically is going to originate at the inspectional services, so Bruce's office. So it's either going to be Bruce or Tim or myself that engages it. But if it's a kennel, typically someone gets on the horn to Tracy and asks her to check it out as well. So it really does depend on who's there and what the capacity is at the time. But so it's going to be one of the four of us, really.
You know.
Okay, do I hear a motion then?
Motion to close the hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any further discussion, or do we feel comfortable with the motion?
I think we have to articulate a motion, but
Well, I guess, is everyone comfortable with the 30 dog limit? It sounds.
I'm fine with it, given that it's operated at a greater capacity, that there's no complaints, and there's only one real neighbor. Like I said, as long as there's a mechanism for whomever may be aggrieved by 30 dogs at a home, then I'm comfortable with 30 dogs. But there's got to be an out for the town to enforce if there is a problem.
May I just ask, 30 dogs / animals, is that appropriate? Because I did hear early on cats, maybe a rabbit.
But you might want to include in there small animals.
I think 30 animals total.
Dogs, cats, rabbits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Mice, whatever they want to keep.
They come and go as they want. That's the problem.
Going to articulate a motion, Brian?
Yes. Yeah, go ahead, Art.
No, I thought Brian Salisbury had it all in his mind already.
Art's passing the buck. Well, I'll move to grant the special permit subject to the conditions that Jim discussed about previously, which includes
You want me to help you out there?
if there's within the discretion of the various
animal control.
Well, animal control, or in the discretion of the town officials, that if there's some sort of pattern of complaints over a year that in I don't know what I'm trying to say, Jim.
So perhaps as in the terms of animal control annual inspection, as well as inspectional service review, if there's if concerns arise during these reviews and inspections, the applicant shall return to the zoning board for review of their special permit, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Although else, review any action that needs to be taken, I would think there would have to be added to that.
I second that.
Yeah, review and possible modification to the special permit.
Yep.
I heard it. Jim did a second. Jim Jeske.
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? All right, that passes. Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all. So,
Thank you.
so we'll be drafting the decision, and Laura will be in touch with you about getting that recorded at the registry of deeds.
Fantastic.
very
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Good luck, you guys.
And
Thank
great.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Okay,
So-
the next. Oh, go ahead, Jim.
Oh, sorry. So I know Arter mentioned possibly continuing the minutes discussion to a later date. We can take them up now. I can pull them up on the screen. It's up to you guys.
I'm okay with
That was
continuing it.
tight over there.
Later's good.
I'm good. Continue. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Do I make a motion to continue the meeting minutes to a later date?
No, we'll just pick them up at the next one. Sorry.
Are we done then?
That's it.
Can I,
Feel good.
before we close, can we talk about Peter's mustache?
You a little jealous there or what?
That's a
Yeah,
different
so-
word that I would use.
So I thought this went rather well. We may have actually a busy meeting coming up here, so I'll keep you updated. There's potential for a 40B application officially in front of us. So perfect time while we're all, away and on our computers here. But so I'll keep you guys updated on that.
All right, thanks. Yeah, motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Hey, quick question before we close it. On the subject of the 40B, actually is a good topic. If there's a site visit required, I guess we all can still do it. We just need to stay 6 feet away from each other. Would that be how it works?
As long as you got your mask.
Yeah.
Excuse me, if you have a mask on, you guys can hold hands. I don't care. The mask-
All right, folks.
Don't hold
if you're
hands.
not- if you're
I ain't
not wearing a
holding hands
mask,
with
then
you,
gotta
Bruce.
stay 6 feet apart. But
In less than 10 people, right? For
There
a
you
public
go.
gathering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would abstain myself. But
if you're outdoors, you can have more than 10. We established that this morning too. But anyways, yeah, if you guys wear your masks, you'll be plenty fine and safe. It's
Okay.
Can some of us wear 2 masks?
No, you're wasting them, Brian. You're wasting. Yes, but yes, Jim, we could certainly do a site visit. We could do in shifts too if we wanted. But also, it's a wide open site, so you're welcome to walk around there all you want. And I think you all will probably know the site really well, so already.
Hey, Bruce.
Yes, sir.
Can you elaborate on the what you just spoke about, on the number of people per gathering?
You can have, if you're outdoors and there's satisfactory social distancing, you can have more than the 10 people. I mean, the 10 people is recommended for confined spaces. So, I mean, we're looking at possibly having the annual town meeting outdoors at the football field or the graduation. And there is provisions for large gatherings as long as the social distancing is met.
Is that per the town? Because I thought the state was different.
No, it's in the fine print or the gray areas of the documents if you read it. And again, it's the gatherings in the tighter confined spaces, like in a lobby of a restaurant or something like that. When you're outdoors, it's kind of.
Okay.
Bruce, can I ask you just to extend the meeting a little bit longer? If you're outside doing something athletic or quasi-athletic, what's the rule about wearing a mask?
Okay, so just so everybody understands, the mask is when you're getting within 6 feet of another person. So if you're out jogging or out riding a bicycle, you don't have to wear it unless you come in contact with somebody else where you're going to be inside that 6 foot circle. it's the safe social distancing factor that triggers the mask. So if you're greater than 6 feet away and you're out walking, you don't necessarily need the mask. What the governor's recommend is that you have one, and if you get close, then pull it up. But the whole thing is dealing with when you have contact with other people. The mask is to protect you from them and them from you. Hopefully both are wearing a mask and you don't have somebody who's either medically or just plain outright obvious I'm not going to wear my mask type of thing. But again, that's that was all to deal with the situations where you can't get that good safe social distancing.
Brian, just so you know, I got a mask for you. This one's for you.
Oh, it covers your mustache.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce.
Stay safe from, again, I've been seeing everything where people driving with masks in their car. I guess some of them just get a little extra paranoid, but it's to protect you and protect the other person when you're within close proximity of each other. So,
okay,
if you wear it too long, you may end up overheating.
okay. So,
all in favor?
all right.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, everybody stay safe. It was good to see you all.
Good night, guys.
Good to see you.
Good night, guys.